It was never really his goal to become solely a cover artist, but by the 2000s, he had firmly settled into primarily just that. He's a storyteller at heart, and he wanted to return to doing interior art. It took him an entire month to do these 2 pages.
What? Really?
Am I going to have to censor a lot of this episode? Some of the best acting in all of comics. He's able to draw a beautiful woman, but also draw a beautiful woman with like a scrunched up face that is just exploding with rage, which is not easy to do.
No.
What do you guys think of the difference between the watercolor test study, like the original, and the final image that went to become the cover? Do you guys notice any major differences?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to Ink Scribes, the comics podcast where we talk about the art and craft of comics. I'm Colin Singh, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Eric Zawadzki and Taylor Stauft. So today we're going to get just right into it. We're going to be looking at comics master Adam Hughes, specifically his 2 works, Doc Manhattan and Betty and Veronica.
So I'm sure the clickbaity title of this episode is it's going to be something like, why doesn't Adam Hughes do interior comics work anymore? And that title's a little tongue-in-cheek. This is going to be a 2-parter we're doing here that is going to contradict that statement. Because I often hear people saying some variation of Adam Hughes only ever does covers these days. Why doesn't Adam Hughes do interior art anymore? Or, I wish Adam Hughes did more than just covers. Yeah, for some reason, it's missed the attention of quite a bit of people that he's made a triumphant return to interiors over the past 10 years. And he's done a fair amount of sequentials. And over the next 2 episodes, we're going to cover all of that.
Yeah, I've gained a whole new appreciation for him, actually, because I've only ever really known him as a cover guy and not even main covers. I've always thought of him as the cheesecake incentive cover guy, and now seeing everything that we've gone over, I'm really impressed. It's been a great surprise.
Yeah, just for if you don't know who Adam Hughes is the artist in the comics industry. Like every artist looks up to him. He's probably most well known for his covers on Wonder Woman, but he's also had runs on covers for Catwoman, Black Widow, Batgirl, Superman, mainly DC though. He started out in the 90s drawing interior work on Justice League, Dark Horse's Ghost, and Gen 13.
Yeah, he just did like a 2-issue miniseries on Gen 13. Mm-hmm. He got to write and draw that one.
Ordinary Heroes, right?
Yeah.
That's a gooder.
In interviews, he talks about how he never really planned anything in his career. He just let the offers come, and whatever happened. It was never really his goal to become solely a cover artist. But by the 2000s, he had firmly settled into primarily as just that. Yeah. Those were just the offers that showed up. It was only until just recently, maybe in the past decade or so, that he decided to start pursuing gigs instead of just having gigs come to him. He's a storyteller at heart, and he wanted to return to doing interior art. He felt that he had enough practice telling a story with one image. With all those covers he did over the years. Yeah, he craved getting back to telling a story within the medium of comics. So by the early 2010s, he was back. And he's done a whole bunch of stuff since then. There are some interesting lessons he learned upon his return. It wasn't an extremely easy transition back to drawing full-time comics.
So in the last 10 years, I would say that you can't even fit like a short box full of work of his, right? Interiors only. Like covers, of course, he's done hundreds, but about that much.
Yeah, I think this is about all the interior type comics that he's done over the past 10 years.
But all that is just gold. Like that's like top shelf stuff.
Oh yeah.
When you go as a Wednesday warrior, when you're going in, you're picking up a book that's by Adam Hughes. That's like really exciting. It's like top of the pile.
So in this episode, we're going to cover Doc Manhattan and Betty and Veronica. But before we dive into that, I just want to talk about something he did in 2010. So this is Batman Superman 75. And this is like an anniversary issue. And they got a whole bunch of artists to contribute to it. There's a lot of cool stuff in here, and this is on the Kindle app, and unfortunately, this is a double-page spread that the Kindle app has not put together. But I guess I'll fix that in the editing and put that together. But he spent the aughts doing pretty much nothing but covers. He did a couple things here and there. He also did something similar to this, which was it was like a 2-page Wonder Woman origin that was in like the 52 series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did something for Tom Strong, but generally the 2000s were just nothing but covers. But yeah, he also did a fair amount of work on an All-Star Wonder Woman comic, which we all know All-Star Superman.
Yeah.
And everybody remembers the Frank Miller, Jim Lee All-Star Batman. There was supposed to be an All-Star Wonder Woman, and he did maybe a couple of issues of it, but yeah, it eventually got shelved. And
I think I heard him say, I heard him say in an interview that there was no order of pages that he had to turn in, so he would work on future issues before working on earlier issues. Sometimes I think he only had a little bit of number 1 done, and then he had like number 3 and 6 and stuff like that.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did that much. Like I don't. Yeah, he doesn't really talk about it too much because it's kind of painful. It's just we'll probably never see that art.
Yeah,
it's just never going to come out.
The lost promise of the All-Star line, man.
I also heard that he really wanted to do Captain America at one time, and I don't know who it was, Joe Quesada or whoever the editor was at the time. They turned him down. But that would have been. I mean, Captain America is my guy. I would love to have seen an Adam Hughes Captain America, even just a one-shot or something, right?
Well, I mean, we got a little bit here and there, and you know, with the stuff we'll cover next episode.
Yeah.
So this 2-pager is interesting because it took him an entire month to do these 2 pages.
What? Really?
Yeah, he was in full cover mode. He just like spent all this time just doing nothing but covers, and so he treated every panel like its own cover. And if you look at it, it is just so lovingly rendered that like this could be a cover. Like every one of these images can be a cover. Like look at how much detail is going on in Joker's face here. Even just look at how spectacular this this sun image is of her sun heading towards the sun. Yeah, and then this page as well. Like, every one of these, and he feels it's over rendered. Yeah, I mean it is undeniably beautiful, but
would you agree
with this and Dr. Manhattan? He was doing cover quality work, and he feels like you shouldn't do cover quality work for interiors, just for the sake of consistency. Because like if you have to do 22 pages, like if it took him 1 month to do these 2 pages, how long would it take to do 22 pages? And if the comic needs to look consistent throughout, it's just like it's not possible. With Dr. Manhattan, it took him about a year to do all 4 issues, and
that's better.
That is better, but he learned from that, and if you look at Betty and Veronica, he realized that there should be 2 modes to operate in, and so we're specifically going to compare his art in Dr. Manhattan, where he is still in that cover quality mode throughout the entire series, and then we're going to look at Betty and Veronica, where he learns to operate in a style that's more attuned to interior art, a rendering that's more in tune to interior art. And I personally believe that the Betty and Veronica stuff has a lot more energy and life than his work in the Doc Manhattan stuff, which is undeniably gorgeous. The Doc Manhattan stuff is gorgeous. Every panel is a masterpiece.
Yes.
It lacks the energy of his work in Betty and Veronica.
You know what? Weirdly, I think that still works for that story, though, which is
thematically,
yeah. Thematically, it's a happy accident, I guess.
Yeah. So like Big 2 comics are an assembly line process, and usually projects start with a writer's pitch. So in my mind, the absolute best comics in which there are writer-artist teams the scripts are tailor-made to the artist. And if you're familiar with Adam Hughes' art at all, with his sensibilities, I don't think Dr. Manhattan is utilizing Adam Hughes to his best.
No,
I think Hughes' work is fun, it's humorous, it's lighthearted, it's sexy, it's human. Whereas what is this comic? This comic is kind of dry, philosophical. It's from the point of view of like an emotionless god.
Yeah, the thing we all associate with
he draws
Manhattan,
him standing around emotionless.
Yeah,
a lot.
is I'm tired of Earth. These people. I'm tired of being caught in the tangle of their lives as he stands on a lifeless planet. It's like, yep, that's that character.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
and
is Doc sitting. This is Doc standing.
Yeah, and not to like we're talking about Betty and Veronica a lot, but like your experience with Betty and Veronica is like that comic is fun,
It's
and
fun.
and like that is Hughes in his element. So this I don't think so much. Although
it does look. He does give it a Manhattan a certain gravity, I guess.
He does actually something, yeah, and that's another thing. So this is a 4-issue miniseries, and Betty and Veronica is a 3-issue miniseries, and so he's not coloring himself in that. Where in either of them, whereas in all the one shots, because they're one-offs, he's able to color himself. Doc Manhattan was colored by Laura Martin, who actually taught him how to color back in the 90s. Back when he went to Wildstorm for the Gen 13 2-part miniseries, he was actually in the Wildstorm office, and Wildstorm had a coloring department there. They were like cutting edge of modern coloring. And
that's right.
Yeah, he hung out there and learned the ropes of computer coloring.
Oh, from Laura Martin, I would love to get any lesson from her.
Yeah, and she lives close by to him, so I think he like visited her and worked very closely, basically giving. The thing is that he's used to all the covers and a lot of comics coloring his own stuff, and so he thinks his vision is the full scope. And so if you end up giving the colors to somebody else, it's somebody with a completely different vision, somebody with different priorities, that can deviate from the starting point of what you envision. So yeah, he worked very closely with her, and the same thing with Betty and Veronica. He worked very closely with Jose Villarrubia.
Okay.
But something I want to comment on the colors, because of what you brought up, is like there are scenes where, like this scene in particular, where everything seems very muted, but he is an incredibly bright blue.
Yeah.
He looks radioactive.
He does, yeah. And I was surprised that there is no glow effect. Like when I think of Manhattan, more recently, it's the movie and the show, and there's always kind of this feel of him leaking or throwing off radiation, but there's no glow to him. But you're right, the coloring is just like, wow, that is.
Yeah, you don't need a glow with this.
Yeah, that is like day glow. Oh, yeah.
If you're just squinting looking at this page, the blue is just popping out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you don't need any effects if you're very clever with your overall palette. And like, yeah, the overall palette is there to highlight the blue effect.
Yeah. Yeah, because even the tinting of the pages is going to go towards that pop, that clash, I guess. Orange versus blue.
Yeah, and so yeah, a little more on the history of this comic. He signed up for this about 2 years before it came out. I think it came out in 2012. So when he was signing up for it, it hadn't been written yet, and he thought he was signing up for a Dr. Manhattan and Silk Spectre adventure. And then the script shows up, and this is a philosophical story about the nature of free will.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the story, but Straczynski asked some pretty interesting questions, and it did make me think a little when I was reading it. I thought it was really interesting. I was hooked the whole way through.
Yeah, it's definitely something Straczynski loves. It felt very much like a lot of the same themes as his Babylon 5 show.
Mhm.
Just
I never saw Babylon 5.
Oh
but-
man, there's a
Dad's
point.
a huge fan of that show.
There's a point in Babylon 5 where he has written like every episode from seasons 2 through 4. So it is just his story, and it's a lot of this sort of, what is it to be power? What is it to be time? You know, like there's a lot of questions and answers about the nature of power and the growth of power.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Uh,
it's a good fit from a writing point of view.
Yeah, and I mean, the way I see it, there's probably only really one way to approach doing this comic. Like, sure, you could have done a Doc Manhattan adventure story, but the character knows everything in the past and everything in the future, and as stories require characters to make decisions, and I guess how do you convince the audience that he's making decisions if he knows everything that's going to happen? In Watchmen, they were able to skirt around it because of the like tachyon effect that was blurring a specific point in time.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways you can use that effect before you can't use that anymore. And so yeah, this is basically just a philosophical discussion about the nature of free will, where the story is about him like changing time basically and experimenting with changing time.
Yeah.
Going through alternate doors to see how time changes.
And yet every time it's still, and then I watched and observed, right? Like it's still, I'm not really interacting or partaking of this story.
Yeah. And there Adam Hughes draws Doc Manhattan standing, Doc Manhattan pointing, Doc Manhattan sitting.
Am I going to have to censor a lot of this episode?
No, I loved it. It was great.
I'm just saying that there's a lot of blue penis.
Yeah, but I think he does a good job of rendering it like Dave Gibbons did, where I remember reading Dave Gibbons went with classical and Renaissance statuary, where it was like, no, we're going with understated. This is the human form. You can't get upset at the human form as long as you're not gratuitous, right? And, you know, we all are expecting it.
Glad you handled that one.
That's a big part of the character, and it's very notable. And I think they would have been called cowards if they had shied away from the nudity.
Okay, so I'm realizing we probably can't show too much of this comic because there's a lot of blue penis. So, but I mean, I'm not I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this comic anyway, so I do kind of want to quickly get to the comic I am a huge fan of. Because I mean, I do personally think Adam Hughes was not a perfect match for this, but at the same time, it does require a lot of clever storytelling, and Adam Hughes is a clever storyteller, an experimental storyteller, and there is a fair amount of experimenting here, which I really appreciated.
Speaking of clever, like, in terms of trying to put out, I know it was only 4 issues and he must have had some lead time, but putting out a monthly book like that, he does use a lot of repeating panels or like opposite panels. He does that mirror effect quite a bit and stuff. Like it does help in the storytelling and streamlines his, he can get a lot more done.
He said working on this comic was, he said working on this comic was kicking his ass throughout the entire process because he was in that cover quality mode, and that's like a fast-paced road to burnout, working at that pace at that quality, and which again why he needed to learn how to shift modes. But look at this. Do you recognize that carpet at all?
Yep.
What's that from?
The Shining, right?
Yeah, that's the carpet from The Shining. This carpet shows up in a couple of his comics.
It does.
It's a go-to for him, which is fun. But here's a clever little thing. As I described earlier with the free will and making choices, he does sort of a page tear effect to show which choice he's going to make, which I thought is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen basically a gutter space portrayed as like a paper tear. It's almost like tearing up the space between the comics, like tearing up reality.
it's a real gamble because it is drawing your attention to, remember, this is on paper. This is a comic.
Mm.
But at the same time, you're right, because we've talked about it before, that the space between panels is time itself. So it does make sense to utilize it in ways to show that time is taking different paths, or time
Or he's
is
creating
being,
this.
yeah,
He's a god who's creating a gutter space.
Yeah,
and how
he
do you
is.
create gutter space on a piece of paper? I guess you just tear it. So
Yep.
that's extremely clever. I
Yeah.
like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
that's like the panels being created by the god we're reading about. This is an example. Like, you cannot do stuff like this in movies, and so stuff like this really excites me. This is like utilizing the medium to its heights.
It's definitely the most Alan Moore-esque feature I thought of this. I've heard Alan Moore in interviews talk about how the book, once it, like, all of the issues together are a block of time that Manhattan essentially moves constantly through, but he can only move through that block. So it makes sense that time is then being utilized through the medium of the page as well. Like, his new divergent path is using the page.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clever, very meta.
And yet
Yeah.
another example that I was saying before, repeating panels and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I want to actually, as I said, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of this comic. And I recently heard Quentin Tarantino talk about, he was listing perfect movies, and he was saying The Matrix was, at one point, he viewed a perfect movie. But I guess he has this theory that sequels can sort of have a retroactive effect on the original. And if you don't like a sequel, it can actually affect how you view the perfect first movie. And I think Watchmen #4 is one of the greatest comics that has ever been made. And this comic sort of takes place during issue 4,
Yeah.
when he's on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading this worrying, like, is this going to somehow have a retroactive effect on how I view Watchmen? And yeah, I don't know. Because there are certain or prequel-itis moments in here where, like, he gets a clock as a kid. He gets a present, which is a clock, and like,
Right.
oh, that's the clock he designed on Mars, which I really hate that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there is something. I was thinking the same thing, and then when you see what it actually is, it's like, so why are we even here? What is my immediate thought when I finished reading the miniseries of, so why are we even doing this story? If the whole point is it's a closed loop that closed itself off, and you're just back to issue 4 of Watchmen, why'd you make this?
And, like, to a great extent, like, all of these prequel comics have been forgotten. I feel like they all have amazing creative teams. The best of the best were working on them in 2010, 2012. And it feels like they've been memory hold. Like, nobody talks about these comics by these great creators. And maybe it's because the whole idea behind doing prequels is sort of a bankrupt idea. It's doing prequels to make money, essentially, which, like, I'm under no illusions. Like, this is corporate comics, and so you have to be realistic. Corporations need to make money. They're going to do whatever they can. But I will say, like, so Adam Hughes is not entirely happy with his work on this. He has said publicly, and I think a small part of it, which he has also said, like, he didn't expect the controversy. There was a lot of anger when this was announced, and it does affect how he views this project as well. Yeah, there was a lot of discussion in the comic industry when this stuff came out.
Yeah,
He wasn't ready for a backlash, you're saying?
Nobody was. I remember reading an interview with Darwin Cook, and he was shocked by it as well. Like, everybody was taken aback by it.
The most I remember.
I wasn't surprised by that at all. I can't believe they weren't.
The thing I remember the most about this whole series is a podcast episode talking about what a bad idea it was going to be. Like I've seen, this is the first time I've read this, but I skimmed a few of the other issues, and I think just because of that podcast episode, I was like, yeah, I don't know that I need to invest time and money in this.
Until Eric invited you onto this show and said you have to read.
Yeah, now I have to.
You have to read some of this stuff. Because actually, I'm a huge Adam Hughes fan. I'm a huge fan of his interior art, and I hadn't read this before diving in for this episode. But there is a lot of greatness in these comics, purely, I think, because of Adam Hughes. I want to highlight, there's like kind of a short story in the middle of issue 3, which I love so much. It doesn't even have to be seen as like a Dr. Manhattan story or in the Watchmen universe. It's just like 5 or 6 pages that can exist on its own, that is just brilliantly executed and just like an interesting story. It takes place during World War II as the Nazis move into where is this, Poland?
I think it's Poland.
So you see in this like first panel, it's the Nazis coming in, and then we pull out and we see it's from the point of view of this set of parents, and their dilemma is, should they stay? And they decide to skip town with their son. And let's see. So they decide they're going to hide their son in this box, and they're going to, if they reach like a checkpoint, they will tell the Nazis that they're just heading to a market to sell stuff. They're worried that if they're seen with their son, it'll look like a family fleeing. So their son is in a box, and it's also thematically in line with the rest of the comic, having to do with the Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah,
but it's the mood of these pages is so well done. You don't have the white gutter space. The night sky, the feel of the night is all consuming. It overtakes the entire page.
Yeah.
Like the mood and atmosphere is just so well handled, and the acting. The family is stopped at a checkpoint, and they decide to check the wagon. And so the mother here, there's no dialogue. The mother gives a look, stands up. We get to see the father, and you look on her face. She's about to sacrifice herself. Yeah. This is the look of like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for my son. And she runs, and she's going to basically take the gunfire so that her son can hopefully survive. And she gets shot, and the father pulls out his gun. And there's been so much blue on the page, the night sky taking over. Look at how powerful that yellow gunfire is.
Yeah.
The contrast, I mean, it's just so powerful. It's hard to make gunshots feel special in comics sometimes because you don't have the audio aspect. This makes the gunshot like really pop, unlike how you can see in most comics. And you'll also notice that there's a gradual shift throughout these 5 or 6 pages. We start off with panel borders, and as the snow and the night become more and more consuming, as the snow begins to build up, we don't have panel borders anymore. They slowly disappear. There's no more panel borders here. The snow is getting more powerful. This is like a symphony that's ramping up. Yeah. And by the end, look at how much snow there is. I just think this was so brilliantly told as just like a small story. And you know, it has that sort of crescendo feel to it, a build up that, I just love it so much.
And his blue scarf at the end is a really nice touch too.
Oh yeah, wind is such a powerful, valuable thing you can use in a comic.
Yeah, it's great. And Actually, could you go back one page? Because there is a back one more page, because you're right there. You can see the panel borders kind of going away, except for the dad's reaction to his wife standing up. It is
Yes,
like
yeah.
that is solid, so that your eye is drawn to it, as though like here's the moment of impact for him.
Yeah, he's about to make a decision as well. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of reading each other's minds.
Hmm.
Like, okay, you're gonna run, I'm gonna pull my gun out.
Yeah,
Mm.
and they're looking at each other, and it's really well executed. The wordlessness of communication there.
Oh, like the look on the mother's face here is just so powerful to me. That's another thing which we're gonna get more in the next episode. Is that he does some of the best character acting that you will see in comics, and with minimal lines, with what you can pull off with a minimal amount of lines is, yeah, he's just a master at it. Okay, so yeah, like, and he's also, from all that experience with covers and stuff, like he's just very good at like creating a collage with images, as you can see on the page on the right here, and
yeah, it's fun. It draws you in.
yeah, and here we get the Schrodinger's box, because in one reality he died and in another he didn't. But just a little bit more on Doc Manhattan here, because there's a couple other clever things he did that I want to highlight. Like, what do we got here? Yeah, this especially stood out to me because I'm currently drawing a comic that is supposed to be read in sort of a loop. In some situations, we want it to be like an infinite loop. So this really stood out to me is what he's doing here. In the comic we're doing right now, we're not going to rotate the captions, but yeah, this still works, and it does train you a little bit for something that happens in the 4th issue, where you're going to have to rotate the comic.
Yeah.
But
that was actually a cool thing they did later on there.
yeah,
I won't say
yeah,
about it,
we'll talk about that when we get there. But
yeah,
I do have some issues here. Like with the lettering, the lettering is the key here. Like the letterer guides. I think our eyes are magnets to the captions in the word balloons, and so the letterer has a very powerful force for like leading your eye through the page, arguably more than the artist. I do wish this caption, the first caption, was higher up, because I think we come in from the corner. I don't think like the first caption I read was this one.
Yeah, because because there's the dad's eyes looking down, directing your vision to where to go next. You're right. It looks like the one you were referencing is. It looks like everything should just be tilted 12 degrees.
Yeah, and the letterer probably was a little stuck, because
Yeah.
there's only so many places you can. Well, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there was a solution for it. But
I'm a huge fan of that bottom panel. That bottom panel, it makes it all the panels come together kind of like hands on a clock. The way he's got his arm outstretched like that, leading to the bottom corner of the page,
and puts you in the field of vision of like a VC that sees this too.
Exactly.
Just like, whoa!
Yeah.
Imagine what that must feel like to see that. It's taller than the tree.
If Dave were here, he would make a really rude comment about that too.
Okay, so we're zooming through this. What I love about this page is it's a sort of countdown to the inevitable. And so he does this clever thing where the panels get smaller and smaller and more claustrophobic, and you as the reader, I guess, like feel the tension and claustrophobia of him heading towards the inevitable, because yeah, he's heading towards the death of him as a human and the birth of him as a god. And I just really liked how this particular page was told.
Yeah, that final one, as like, no, that's the door closing. Like that is, he is over.
Yeah, it's just so well told. Okay, so you know what? I don't think we have to show too much more. Again, here's another great collage.
Yeah,
I love. He's able to lead your eye through it.
Do you want to just address the flipping?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so let's just.
Yeah, so I would recommend people read this stuff. I don't, with all the comics we cover, I don't want to show every single page because I want to highlight certain things that stand out to us, but I also want to encourage people to go out and buy this stuff and read this stuff because a lot of this stuff is just solid gold. There is
learn a lot.
Yeah, there's just so much to learn.
Yeah.
There is something at the end here which I don't want to show, but he very cleverly, for a great deal of the comic, it's read upside down. So it transitions from normal and then transitions to upside down. And I've seen that done incorrectly a couple of times in comics. And I think Adam Hughes pulls it off perfectly. Like when it's done incorrectly, the reader gets confused, and was there a printing error or on Kindle here, did they upload it incorrectly? The way he does it, it's unmistakable. It was intentional. It is supposed to be read upside down. And I don't even fully understand story-wise. Like I don't even know if it was J. Michael Straczynski who scripted it that way, or if it was Adam Hughes' idea. But I guess, like, why do you guys think the comic went upside down?
I think it's a mirror effect, is what I think.
I was gonna
like a reflection in water, right? So there's been compositions like that where someone's legs is standing, and then like you see the reflection below. I think it has something to do with that, like a mirror effect.
Well, and
but story-wise, why have a mirror effect? What's the purpose?
It makes me think of one, he set it up all throughout, right? With the mirrored panels, the mirrored pages, and just the use of mirrors, like John Osterman looking into a mirror, walking away, and Manhattan is still in that mirror. So it is driving towards. It feels like it's driving towards, okay, here's the last one. It's a reflection, and then it's completed. We're back to, you're upside down, you're in the wrong universe, and then upon that final reflection, because I think it's that he lures Veidt into doing his own plan, and it's okay. And now we're back. Now we are back to where you remember. We are back to the original Watchmen through a reflection of a reflection, I guess.
So I guess what you're saying is, like, everything is wrong here. It's literally upside down,
backwards.
I think so. I think that's what they're going for. I don't know how successful it is, but you learn from mistakes, not successes.
I'm not sure story-wise it was successful, but definitely execution-wise, I think Adam Hughes did his job. He made it completely clear. But I don't know. I guess that's enough looking at that. I just want to also add that, like, everything about this comic, Adam Hughes' approach, every line is perfect. Several episodes ago, I think we talked about Frank Thorne, and I pointed out how he had an imperfect line, and how I like that because it's, I guess, relatable. I guess when things are a little too perfect, it can be almost machine-like. Mm-hmm. And I guess I can relate to the imperfect because, I'll never be as great as Adam Hughes, I guess. But he does start to embrace imperfection with Betty and Veronica, which is what we're going to look at now.
Yes.
Now, the covers here are just gorgeous. And with these covers, he put days into these. He colored them himself. But he learned with this to operate in another mode, which is to not be so perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of this scene. I love this scene a lot between Jughead and Archie.
Yeah, it immediately establishes their friendship. If you had no idea who they are.
Even just from a storytelling standpoint, before, Eric, you get into it, like just the word balloons, like the way the word balloons make the eye travel, the color palettes, the acting of all the characters, the dialogue itself is very engaging too, right? Like you really get into get a feel for their friendship, like you were saying.
Yeah, and I think all that goes towards the I guess you would call it's rhythm in comics, right? It's in film it would be editing, but in comics it would be rhythm, and it's the kind of the comedic rat-a-tat-tat between the two of them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's my favorite scene in the whole story.
Yeah, it's real
Yeah,
good.
and if you listen to interviews with Adam Hughes, he is very affable. He is funny. He's very fun to talk to. He's an amusing person. He's very clever. He's got a quick wit, and like this comic is written by him, and like this humorous back and forth dialogue. This is basically how he talks, how he thinks, and the comic is about as fun as he comes off as.
And great job on making the Jughead crown feel like something a teenager would wear. It is the farther they get from 1940s mechanics, the harder it is to make that whole thing make sense.
Well, and that's another thing is like he's not embracing cartooning. Like he's generally more on the realistic scale of drawing, but like Archie is firmly based in a cartooning aspect. And
Yeah.
the waffle lines on Archie's the side of Archie's head is always there in the cartoon Archie, and he keeps those waffle lines all throughout on Archie.
This is
Yeah,
something
Jughead's
I
hair, too.
really want to talk about.
The shape of Jughead's hair is still like the original. Excuse me.
Yeah, if
The
a
original
real kid
design.
had that cartoon hair is
Exactly.
kind of what it looks like.
But just the three triangles that were Jughead's hair
Yep.
sticking out under the crown. If you read any Archie strips, it would be he still maintains those three triangles,
Mm-hmm.
along his hairline.
Yeah, and so if you look at these buildings, he is not using a straight edge to ink these. And you can't immediately tell by looking at it, but I guess you can feel that it's a little more lively than when he is using a straight edge on buildings. There's just so much life to these backgrounds that I love so much, and I think he used a straight edge on the pencils, but when it came to inking it, I think he just like threw the ink down, and I love that aesthetic so much. It just looks so nice. And again, it's embracing imperfection.
Yeah.
I also love so much the autumn aspect of this, where the environment is so alive. There's leaves everywhere, and they're just like overtaking. Yeah, it's just so lively.
It's like they're perfectly spread out too in every page. I don't know how he did it, but
Well, he's a master at composition.
yeah.
This is great. Yeah, no, I love this. I love the use of the full figure of Betty here
Right.
as just kind of she takes up the whole page, so she functions almost like a panel unto herself, but also across. Definitely the one with Veronica sitting down and Jughead, kind of Jughead trying to pick the bag up. It's not a full thing, but it is, and also operating as a separation between Archie and Jughead and Veronica. It all just it works just so well together. It's just I don't know how he's doing it, but he's doing it.
Yeah, I bought this when it came out in 2015, and when I saw preview images for this comic, I mean, I guess I was surprised. I think most artists, as they get older, the quality starts to drop off, and when I saw this, I basically had this realization: oh, Adam Hughes is that rare breed that no matter how old he just gets better and better. There is no drop off at all. Like
It is a rare breed.
Yes, there's probably you can count on one hand how many artists can fall into that category. I mean, just look at speaking of like imperfection. Look at this building. He's not doing any perspective on this. It's just a flat perspective, and it doesn't. I don't know if it like fully makes sense with the like window, or maybe it was just the coloring choice because the window is kind of hanging off compared to it being off the side here. And it doesn't matter. It looks good. The perspective doesn't make sense, and it looks good. And this is like embracing imperfection, and it has more energy, I think, than the Doc Manhattan stuff. And in particular, like if we look at the lines on this building right here, they are not perfect. And I just want to quickly go back to what was it? Page.
You said we wouldn't come back to this.
But I just want to compare. We got a similar effect on this building.
Yeah.
Look at how perfect that is.
Yep.
When compared to like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean you can, and yeah, he's even adding little tick marks. Like you can see he's just like throwing the lines. Like look at the windowsill. It's just like thrown down, and it looks good. It looks great.
Good.
Yeah, like her hand, that kind of doesn't make sense on that one, but at the same time, it doesn't really need to, right? You don't need to be obsessed with the aesthetic perfection, I guess, but you get, oh, that's a hand she's holding on. You're not even looking at it anyway. You're looking at her surprised face, the sudden, and he uses the hair swish to communicate really the very quick
movement.
Yeah, just like what?
Now I just want to quickly, if we go to the covers in the back here. Sorry, this is the trade on the Kindle app, and where
that's what I read it through.
Okay, where is shoot? Okay, here we got covers. Okay, look at how lovingly rendered this jean texture is. Look at how much work he's putting into that. Which you can also see at the very beginning, as I showed off with like the first cover. Yeah, look at Betty's. Look at how like there's a lot of time being put into this. But then look at how he's illustrating jeans on Jughead here, where he's just like quickly throwing lines down.
He doesn't even have them for Betty and the big figure of her.
Well, yeah, she's not wearing jeans.
So is she not?
Yeah,
no, those are yoga pants.
Oh, okay. I thought it was him. Like, yep, I'm dropping.
No, those are totally yoga pants.
I'm dropping details that don't really need to be there. I thought it was because you're right. When you say he learned a lot about rendering and how much you need to put in, I think this whole series is a great example of him learning what doesn't need to be there.
Well, comics, they need to move. You need to move from panel to panel. They need to breathe. Your eye is darting throughout the page. And with Doc Manhattan, everything was so perfect, so beautiful. And I just wanted to pause and take in every panel. In this, I still do have that because I'm studying it, I guess. But I think it breathes a little more. And I think you move through the page a lot quicker because not every line is meant to be perfect. I will say, though, he's clearly a perfectionist. And I suspect he maybe wasn't a huge fan of this stuff. I do think by the time you get to number 3, it does start to get it is still lively, but it starts to get a little more into that perfection stage. But I mean, I love this stuff so much, and just the acting as well. I mean, this page right here.
Okay, the second page I want to talk about. I got something about it. Okay. So what I love about, because he's writing this as well, and this is a great example of writing for your strengths, because it's clear he's great at comedy, but the visual communication of it as well, and using this is Archie Andrews. There are many fine periodicals about him available at your local comic shop. Which is like great mini meta reference, but also I will add that I've always liked this Andrews chap, as the scent of his hair reminds me of waffles, and that is in that panel just the clearest representation of the old Archie waffle hair. It's because you pointed it out earlier. There are still those hatchings, but that is a clear reference to 70, 80 years of comics previous. It's just a great little gag that's like, this is why this is a fun book. It's built on little things like this.
Oh, I love that he drew the sound effects too. I love I've got I wouldn't even call it a love-hate relationship with sound effects in comics, but I like it a lot when the artist actually draws them in themselves. instead
Well,
of
it
like,
is
like
it is interesting.
computer.
I agree with you because like this Queequegs is digital, but then when you get here, like this coming soon and this open late, yeah, hand drawn.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it
way
just looks
better.
great.
It's way better.
Yeah, very lively, very, and it's the important part is it's integrated with the art. Like, to be honest, like the lettering doesn't fully feel integrated with the art. The lettering feels like it's like statted on top of the art. It's like it looks digital compared to like this like lovingly hand drawn effect here. I love this little squiggle here. You see this? This is just like, that was not in the pencils. That was him just like letting loose. You do not see in his previous comic. It is him just like scribbling away, creating detail, and yeah, again, just letting loose. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go through every page, but so what did you want to comment much on here?
Just
I'm a big fan of Midge. There's that one splash page of Midge, which is really nice looking one.
Yeah. So Jose Villarrubia is coloring this, and he's got an interesting coloring style here, which I don't see. I don't think I've ever seen on any other comic, where he's adding a holding line on pretty much every bit of the line art, except occasionally. Like for most of the comic, the holding line it adds a gray to the line. It's not pure black. But then every now and then when you have a foreground figure like her right here, it embraces the black, and she really pops out because everything else has that gray holding line. I think stylistically the reason he chose this as a colorist is the Archie universe is sort of like this takes place modern day, but it is by way of the 50s, and you know, they're in an old 50s diner and going to a malt shop or whatever, and so it's supposed to like give off that like faded old feel, I think.
Yeah, it's it does have that, because they observe in the story too just how they observe something about the age of the town and how they don't want things to change, and it does kind of go to that they're in the autumn of their childhood, the last time before you're headed into the adult world, kids, so good luck. And then, you know, Betty observes, I don't want this place to change. I also don't want it to stay the same, but we should preserve what we can. And it's almost like the coloring is just a little bit of preserving that feel. That bottom panel too is a good example of what I mean, of just like, it's a hard cut to, you don't even see her wind up, right? It's just a hard cut to, she punches him, and then the cartoonish effect of a teenage girl sending a teenage boy flying through the air with one punch. It's
and
great.
His hat spinning.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I really love the juxtaposition of his realistic art with this cartoon language. I love whenever that happens. I remember when I was younger, I saw Lee Bermejo do some things like that in his art, and yeah, when I saw him do that, I just like realized how much I loved that effect, where you can have like a very realistic gun and then a very cartoonish like a blam like gunfire look.
Yeah.
And I love so he's always good at creating texture. Like the wood looks like wood, the jeans look like jeans, and like I love how he adds texture to like shirts and stuff where it's just not pure black, but you do get some cross hatching here. But let's like jump ahead just a little bit. This is great. Like again, like some of the best acting in all of comics. He's able to draw a beautiful woman, but also draw a beautiful woman with like a scrunched up face.
Yep.
That is just exploding with rage, which is not easy to do.
No, because there's significantly more lines on her face just there, and it's real easy for her to suddenly become 80.
Yes, you know? Yeah, you run the risk of making someone look elderly. The more lines you put on.
Her expression in the second to last panel, where she's like kind of gearing up to say lodge, like she's backing up, and you get, it's not like it's essentially a double chin, but she's like, her lungs are filling up for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, this is a great like 1, 2, 3 of just like the build up right before the explosion and then the explosion, and the coloring is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And the definition of her jaw in that third one just lets you know that like she was scrunched up and she is now just cut to projection of the word as well.
Yeah, and all throughout, the sheepdog is narrating, and all throughout, like this is another example of just like pure energy, where he's just like throwing like white paint. Like clearly there was an outline and it was blacked out, and then he's throwing just sort of white paint to create these effects. He and his wife own, I think, like 3 or 4 sheepdogs. So this this was big for him to just like put a sheepdog in there. I mean, it's just like so fun. You got this like cat freaking out as well. Just
and this is the first page of the second issue as well, right?
Yeah, this is like the double page spread of the second issue.
Okay, yeah, it's a great also reintroduction of who Betty and Veronica are. It's just a quick if you because this was around the time that they rebooted Archie with Mark Waid and Fiona Staples, so it was all kind of all new not characterizations, but definitely an all new approach to these.
This was during the Archie Renaissance.
Yeah,
because there was like the afterlife with Archie sort of like caused this created this sort of renaissance where they just relaunched all these books and came up with all these new like horror Archie and alternate universe Archie, where he chooses Betty or Veronica, and just like I remember there's just a lot going on with Archie back in this day, and just the idea you got Adam Hughes to write and draw 3 issues, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
although he wanted to do 12 issues, but I
12?
think I think the 3rd issue was very delayed, and I think he got fired basically.
Oh
no.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
That is too bad. Like, why couldn't you just have like a spin-off? Like, I know they wanted to do an ongoing Betty and Veronica because the series continued with another artist, but why couldn't you just have them continue and then have that other series go on? So yeah, I don't know. But out of that, we got all those other one-shots. Like, he kept busy, so it's not like we were missing out on more Adam Hughes art. Although, like, more of this series, I would have gladly taken more of this series.
Yeah, because he's got a good handle for the humor that I think we might all not forget, but don't realize is that is what Archie starts off as, right? It's one of them funny books. The point was sight gags and wordplay. You know, it was the 1940s version of it, so it doesn't read as good to us now. It kind of reads as corny, and they just for the longest time just stuck with that. But this series was a nice reintroduction of, hey, remember when comics could be funny? It wasn't all just superheroes punching each other. It was, you could do all kinds of stuff. There's no limit to the story you can tell.
Yeah, I did love this one a lot, but I still wish in my heart of hearts he would do Captain America. At least just once. That would be my...
Yeah, because and with this style, this coloring and stuff, he's really suited to that kind of that old-timey feel.
This makes me think of what if for a Cap book, because I know he did want to do one. So
so I just want to show off some more of his like organic lines. Like these seem very improvised. This whole living room, and again, he's great at texture. You know, I think all of us have drawn a sofa before, but like seeing a drawing of a sofa, you don't necessarily get what that sofa feels like. But looking at this chair and this sofa, we have all sat down in chairs and sofas like this. We know what that feels like purely because he put the perfect lines on the page to give that textural feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what do you feel? How do you feel about Jughead's legs protruding out past the border that cuts literally everything else off?
Yeah, it is interesting.
I think it would work better with than without. If you cut the legs off, I think it wouldn't work as well as it does here. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, now that I'm imagining
It's just
it,
one of those decisions,
You know, I remember when I was a kid, I had a Savage Dragon comic, and he had like a 5-page short at the back, in which there was a character who like shoots lightning or whatever, and she has huge hair, like huge like 80s type hair. And there was a scene where you see her from the front and you see the huge hair, and then a page later you got to see a view of her from the back, and he moved the hair so that he could draw the back. And I just remember reading that thinking like he really just wanted to draw her back muscles. Like because it didn't make much sense why the hair was gone. And I just get the sense that you just want to draw a full figure, or you just want to show off your skills at like anatomy or muscles, and you just he gets to this page, it was probably roughed out where his feet were cut off. Maybe potentially he's drawing this, he's like, I just want to finish drawing this figure.
yeah, that's fair, because it is an impressive rendering of foreshortening, and it does lead from that panel directly into the next one that really completes the joke of, pardon, Freudian slip. My mother wears a Freudian slip. Tell me about your mother.
I think Betty in the bottom corner, her head overlapping the panel as well, kind of helps balance it out.
Yeah.
Right. I just get the sense that he likes drawing these full figures. I do like how he does these like open panels. Like this is such an interesting effect that you don't see a lot these days, where the panel border is just kind of showing up on their faces. I don't know why. I can't speak to why it's done, other than I guess maybe it's just aesthetics. Maybe it just looks good.
Well, what are they talking about before this? Because it's a cut to silent. No, we're
Veronica, he's
It's
asking.
it's
we're not
about
really-
their friendship.
So I think it really works because the white space, it's just, oh, Archie is worried about Betty, and they're kind of compressed in this moment that they can't talk about the thing that they want to talk about. I think it is effective for the feeling of, yeah, me and my best friend are not talking right now. Oh, I'm worried about that. Well, don't be. There's things I have to do. It just kind of gives that, it's a nice slowdown to the feel of, if everything is funny, then when do you have time to rest? So for it to just give you this nice little space to breathe and then kick into so many word balloons and so much action of Betty just walking off page almost. It's
a nice pause, and I
yeah.
guess the white lends to that pause. I guess
Mhm.
it makes your eye like rest there a little bit, because like all the other panels are very busy. As even in the second panel, like it feels like he added this texture to make this panel more busier, and then you get the most white space here where there is an awkward silence. So yeah, I guess that's entirely it. It's to have your eyes rest during the awkward silence. That's
Yeah. Because that's also part of the pacing, right? Is you got to go up, you got to come down. You have to, and you just had the gag the previous page between Archie and Jughead. So yeah, it makes sense that, okay, everybody rested. Let's go back for more jokes. Let's go.
and that's another thing is I said earlier that like this comic is perfect for him because he is a very fun person, but he's also like he's good at doing the humor, but he's also very good at the dramatic moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump a little bit ahead. Another thing, like it seems like Jose Villarrubia is embracing the imperfection as well, because he creates these holding lines for the skin every now and then, and like there's a lot of imperfection in how he like grabs her hand, like the holding lines on her hands and everything, and it does feel like that's intentional. Like he's trying to be as quick and imperfect and improvisational as the line work, because like letterers should work this way, colorists should work this way. You should look at the line work and adapt your approach to the comic. A colorist should not have a one size fits all for every comic, and same with the lettering. like lettering, for example. I think one rule is just like the thickness of the word balloons should be a similar thickness to the general line work, and that's
Okay.
like a commentary on the adaptation. And yeah, clearly Jose Villarrubia knows what comic he's on, and he's adapting appropriately.
Now, obviously, everyone here, no, all three of us know what a holding line is. But for our viewers, why
Right.
don't
Good.
why don't you explain what a holding line is?
So that's basically where you have the line work, and on a separate layer the colorist will like paint over parts of that, like for instance, this hand has been painted over with another color, and that is a holding line. You're holding that line with another color.
Right. Yeah. Great example. Great example.
Look at these faces. Like Adam Hughes is known for drawing beautiful women. Like it feels like that's the only thing people mention when they talk about him. But
Yeah.
but come on, he can draw all kinds of faces. He can draw. I mean, even just like look at Jughead. Like look at like Jughead's like profile. Yeah, all different kinds of faces here and different kind of expressions, and just like good cartooning.
Yeah.
Little old granny with an eye patch.
Yeah,
Hipster
that's
dude in
amazing.
a shirt. Guy with a fishing hat.
Looks like Bill Murray with the fishing hat.
Oh yeah, it kind of does. Yeah. So yeah. Again, we get a lot of good acting here, and this is I talked a bit about this in the Red Sonja episode, but like this is how you create a montage in comics.
Yep.
There's a film language for creating a montage, which is just quick editing cuts, but you can't do that stuff in comics, and so comics have to create their own language for like a quick progression of time happening over a small period of time for the reader. And like this is how you do it. You collage everything together, and it just like it gives the illusion of time speeding by. And
Yeah,
this is like a perfect example of it.
Yeah, it's a great composition because it's telling you the story and utilizing. I love the way it utilizes the leaves that we were talking about earlier to kind of all the
Yes.
leaves are going this way. You know where to go.
I like how it leads from the top corner of like the window frame down and then up Betty's arm and then back down Veronica's arm, then back up Veronica's other arm. It's kind of like doing this W thing with the eye.
And I love how frantic it comes off because of the frantic energy in the acting of Betty, where you know she's screaming through it, and then it just like ends on her just like just like going nuts, screaming at her cat.
Yeah, the cat's reaction is what really brings it all together.
Yes.
This cat is worried about this girl.
We're all worried, just like the cat.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's also it's a great example of her kind of deterioration and the machinations of Veronica. It's great.
And I guess this will be the last bit. Like I don't want to look at too much more. I don't want to look at the last issue too much because I love this 3 issue so much, and I want people to go out and buy this. It's super cheap on Kindle, or just go to your comic shop and try and find it. I encourage people to read it.
The trade's only $13. It's really really affordable. So, and it's money well spent to steal.
Money very well spent. Yeah, and we've sort of shown the best of what he's doing on here, and there's a lot of similar.
We're talking about, by the way, this edition here.
So that's the trade.
Yeah.
And
that collects the first 3.
I have the like single issues here.
Nice.
But just to put a cap around it, let's look at some more acting, because again, best character actor in comics probably, because I just love this Betty face so much, and even the Veronica face.
Really great. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
the faces behind them. To let you know, because you were saying about the Doc Manhattan stuff. Oh, are we allowed to show this? He is not allowed to show a high school girl with in a bikini car wash, right? You don't see Cheryl doing any of this, but you do know what's going on just from like all the boys and their reaction and
Oh, the
Betty and
bubbles are
Veronica.
so ridiculous too.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that's another thing of just like her reaction is says it all. Like you can show something ridiculous or you can show something horrifying, or you could show someone reacting to something ridiculous, or you can show someone reacting to something horrifying, and that can almost speak more volumes than actually showing the actual thing. And yeah, just to close this out, look at this Betty acting.
I think he has a preference. I think he likes Betty more than Veronica.
You know, you go to conventions and stuff, and fans ask you stuff, and like, I mean, there was the whole like these covers, like this cover's Team Betty, and the variant was Team Veronica, and like he was asked that a lot.
Yeah.
And
what do you say?
He was basically saying like he's in love with all his characters. As a writer, you kind of have to be, but if you're forced to pick one, you're forced to pick one. And yeah, you're right, Colin. He's Team Betty.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
I think
I've dated a lot of Veronica, so I'm Team Betty now.
I think because she also lends herself very well to the stuff he wants to do. Veronica is a very stoic, cold, distant character in and of herself, and Betty.
She's sweet too.
Yeah, but she's not. She's not
by
active,
the end of the story,
I guess. Oh yeah, no, and that the end is a great reveal. Won't spoil it here, but she is by circumstance, I guess. Other people do work for Veronica, you know, which is set up very early in the first issue.
But yeah, I just lastly want to show off, like, at Heritage Auctions, the original art of this was sold, and so we get to see the original. I think this was used with done with Copic markers, and then he also did like a color study, which on Heritage it said it was done with watercolors, which he's not normally associated with watercolors. He's definitely a Copics guy, but he does digitally color a lot of his stuff. So this was just a watercolor test, and it was probably just another thing to sell.
Wow.
Very lucrative. But what do you guys think of the difference between the watercolor test study, like the original, and the final image that went to become the cover? Do you guys notice any major differences?
Yeah.
Well, I prefer no background. I think it works better with no background, personally.
Yeah, that's all you're seeing, Colin, just the background.
Well, I mean, the clothes too, but
the clothes. Yeah.
I
Taylor, you're just
I prefer no background.
You're about to explode. Like,
well, so this is the I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but there is a bit of
I wasn't going to.
There is a bit of a weirdness to these are canonically 16-year-old girls. And
I think they're 18 in this, though.
They talk about how they have several years of high school left.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Right.
So there. I pegged them about 16, and I think the second one really gets around any uncomfortableness with the rendering of them.
Well, I mean, Archie, the company, specifically asked for a breast reduction on Betty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at least for the cover, in the comics, it's still very evident, but for the cover, at least, he had to reduce it just a little bit. I do appreciate that, like, he's got a reputation for drawing sexy women, but he can draw different body types. Something I loved about Gen 13 was there were 3 women on the team, and there were 3 different body types, and it was very character based.
Mm-hmm.
It was not just a generic, I'm just going to draw a buxom woman just like because I really want to draw buxom women, so I'm going to draw all 3 of them the same. And like, he's thinking of character with this, and yeah, he's drawing them differently.
Although I will say, though, I think Fairchild and Rainmaker's body types were kind of similar. I think Fairchild maybe was taller, but their body types, I think.
Well, no. Fairchild was way more muscular. Fairchild was like a bodybuilder. And
There's-
Rainmaker was
there's
not.
just- there's panels of Rainmaker, I remember, where it's you could say she would have been one or the other.
Agree to disagree.
All right, we'll talk. We'll argue about it later, I guess.
I do want to bring up to that point. He does a great job of breaking out of the Betty and Veronica syndrome. Of the two of them are just the same face with different color of hair.
Yes.
Like they are, I think in the boxing thing panel, it lists their heights, and Veronica is 4 inches taller than Betty, and that's pretty consistent throughout. Like she is noticeably taller, she is noticeably thinner and less defined muscularly, and there is a difference between their faces, just shape and expression. And yeah, he really differentiates two characters that for 70 years have been the same character.
Even as a writer, they both have different voices.
Yep.
They both have different humorous ways about them. Different line delivery, I guess, is a way to put it. Like to mix the acting with the dialogue that's being written. But yeah, I mean, he is a very character focused person. That is actually the secret to his success, I think, compared to his imitators. There are a lot of Adam Hughes imitators, and the thing that separates him from all of those is that his characters are human, that they're not just like sex dolls or whatever. In every one of his covers, in all the comics he's written, these are characters that he's put a tremendous amount of thought into their personalities, and those personalities come out in all of his illustrations.
Yeah, the acting, the expressions are all very genuine, and anything, even if there's somebody's running or jumping or getting excited or something, like the expression has always been genuine. It's always been real and true.
Yeah.
So I guess that was part one, and we're going to dive into all his other individual issues he's done, because these are a lot of just short stories, so it'll be easy to get through a lot of them in like quick succession next episode. Did you guys do any art this week?
Yeah, I did for this episode. I didn't have a lot of time this week, but I did a quick Dr. Manhattan, just a sketch. If you can see it there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
So that's me.
How'd you color that?
Oh, you know what? I thought I had a Copic blue, at least one. And I looked for it and I couldn't find it. So I just grabbed one of my wife's blue highlighters and I just used a highlighter.
Ooh, nice.
An actual Staples highlighter. So
how do you feel as, like, something I like about this show is you can go to the first episode and you can see Colin at the beginning of his art journey. I don't know, we're like, what, 10, 11 episodes in? You've shown art in almost every episode. What I like about the show is we're going to get to see your progression. I don't know, like 10 drawings in or 10 weeks in or whatever. How you feeling?
Well, some weeks I feel strong and some weeks I don't. And so I just try to keep a wait and see attitude, whatever the subject
is. You feel
is.
like you're
hard
progressing.
for me to pick something to draw for this one, because I didn't feel anything towards drawing either Betty and Veronica or Dr. Manhattan. So, and that was the characters we were going to draw for this show. So I had to think of something quick. But then other times, inspiration strikes me and I want to do something a little bit more ambitious. It just really depends. I mean, I'm passionate about every book that we talk about, of course. It's just that the theme of each show, I kind of directs my what I want to draw that week, right? So I try to stay more true to the show and just give myself that parameter.
Do you feel like you're progressing much as an illustrator?
Yeah, it keeps me consistent. I'll say that. I do draw every week. I also work, so I got to find the time for it. But yeah, it is keeping me consistent. That's one thing that I'll say. So, like I said, just have a wait and see attitude, and let's see where I'm at in 52 episodes later, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had time to draw something for this week, but comics is all consuming. I do wish I had more time to sit and do some random illustrations here and there, because it exercises other muscles, and it does make me better. It allows me to experiment in ways that I have to be consistent while drawing the comic. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just I'm drawing an incredibly ambitious creator-owned comic right now, and that is getting all of my focus. When I'm done this issue 5, I'll get back to doing the occasional illustration for this show. But yeah, I guess we should close this one out.
Let's close it out. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. So next episode, we're going to be doing part 2 of Adam Hughes, looking at all his short stories. So look out for that. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow all our social medias down at the bottom. And if you did any drawings for this week as well, post them up. We'd love to see them. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
I just want to add, like, if you're not following us, if you could press the follow button, that would be amazing. That would help the channel so much.
Yep.
Yeah, we'd greatly appreciate that. But until next time.
Yeah, until next time. See ya.